The desperate Pleath mining station on Kepler 442b had been abandoned for 3 years. When Captain Jackson Reed arrived, his cargo ship needed repairs, and this forgotten outpost was his only hope. The planet's twin suns cast eerie shadows through the dusty corridors as he worked on his damaged engines. Thunder rumbled outside, followed by the sound of something hitting the metal hull. Jackson grabbed his plasma rifle and moved toward the airlock. Through the reinforced glass, he saw her, a woman with pale blue skin and silver hair, collapsed against his ship. She wore tattered clothing that had once been elegant, now reduced to rags. When he opened the airlock, she fell forward into his arms. Her body was painfully thin, and her breathing was shallow. Her eyes, a striking violet color, looked up at him with desperate hope. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I haven't eaten in days. I can offer you comfort, warmth for your bed. Just give me food." Jackson's heart clenched. He had seen desperation before, but never like this. The woman was clearly not human. Her skin had a luminescent quality, and her ears were slightly pointed. But her pain was universal. "You don't need to offer me anything," he said gently, helping her stand. "When did you last eat?" She stared at him in confusion, as if kindness was a foreign concept. 6 days ago, maybe 7. I found some berries, but they made me sick." Jackson guided her to the small living quarters of his ship. She moved like a ghost, afraid to touch anything, as if expecting to be struck or pushed away at any moment. He activated the food synthesizer and prepared a simple meal: protein broth and soft bread. "What's your name?" he asked, setting the tray before her. "Zara," she replied, her hands shaking as she reached for the spoon. "I am Zara of the Luminari, or I was, before they cast me out." She ate slowly, savoring each bite as if it might be her last. Jackson watched her, noting the way she kept glancing at him, still expecting him to demand payment for his kindness. "Why were you cast out?" he asked softly. Zara's violet eyes filled with tears. "I refused to bond with the male they chose for me. Among my people, refusing a sanctioned mating is the greatest crime. They stripped me of my rank, my home, everything. I've been wandering for months." Jackson felt anger rise in his chest. "That's barbaric. It's our way," she said simply. "I knew the consequences, but I couldn't force myself to love someone who saw me as property." As night fell on the alien world, Jackson prepared a sleeping area for Zara. She watched him with growing amazement, still unable to believe that he expected nothing in return for his help. "Why are you being kind to me?" she asked. "Because it's the right thing to do," he replied. "Everyone deserves compassion." Building trust. 3 days had passed since Zara arrived, and she was slowly regaining her strength. Jackson had shared his food without question, given her clean clothes, and treated her wounds with gentle care. She spent most of her time watching him work on his ship, fascinated by his skill and patience. "Your people," she said one morning as he calibrated the engine systems, "they don't practice arranged bonding." Jackson looked up from his work. "Some cultures do, but not mine. We believe love should be freely given, not forced." Zara considered. "This, on Lumina, love is considered a luxury. Practical partnerships ensure strong offspring and stable society. But are people happy?" Jackson asked. She was quiet for a long moment. "I never thought about happiness being important. Duty, honor, obedience, these were valued above all else." As the days passed, Zara began to help with small tasks round the ship. She was intelligent and learned quickly, but she still flinched whenever Jackson moved too quickly or spoke too loudly. Years of conditioning weren't easily forgotten. One evening, as they shared a meal, Zara asked, "Do you have a bonded mate?" Jackson shook his head. "I had someone once, but she chose a different path. We parted as friends. You don't seem bitter about it." "Why would I be? Forcing someone to stay would have made us both miserable." Zara stared at him in wonder. "Your people truly are different." That night, a storm raged outside. The ship shook with the force of the wind, and lightning illuminated the darkness. Zara huddled in her sleeping area, clearly frightened. Without thinking, Jackson sat beside her. "It's just weather," he said softly. "The ship is strong. I'm not afraid of the storm." She whispered, I'm afraid of trusting you. Jackson understood. Trust takes time. I'm not going anywhere. She looked at him with those striking violet eyes. You could have taken what I offered that first night. Most males would have. I'm not most males. He replied. Besides, intimacy should be about connection, not desperation. For the first time since her arrival, Zara smiled a real smile that transformed her entire face. I'm beginning to understand why your people value freedom so highly. Freedom includes the right to choose who you love, Jackson said. And if someone chooses to love you? She asked quietly. Jackson's heart skipped a beat. Then I'd be honored. As long as it was their genuine choice. The storm continued to rage outside, but inside the ship, something beautiful was beginning to bloom, something that neither of them had expected to find in this desolate place. The growing connection. A week had passed, and Zara had transformed from a broken refugee into someone discovering her own strength. She worked alongside Jackson with growing confidence, her natural intelligence shining through. But more than that, she was learning to laugh, to question, to express opinions without fear. Your ship is remarkable, she said one afternoon, helping him repair a damaged circuit. But it's designed for one person. Don't you get lonely? Jackson paused in his work. I used to think I preferred solitude. Now I'm not so sure. Their hands brushed as they reached for the same tool, and neither pulled away immediately. The simple contact sent warmth through both of them, a connection that went beyond physical attraction. Jackson, Zara said softly, I need to tell you something about my people. He gave her his full attention, noting the serious tone in her voice. Luminari don't just form bonds for practical reasons. When we do connect deeply with someone, it's permanent. Our emotions, our life force, become intertwined. It's why arranged bonds are so important to our society. They can't risk people choosing poorly. What happens if the bond is broken? Jackson asked. The surviving partner usually dies of grief within a year. It's why I was so afraid to trust you. I can feel something growing between us, something I've never experienced before. Jackson set down his tools and turned to face her fully. Zara, I care about you deeply, but I would never ask you to risk your life for love. What if I want to risk it? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Before he could answer, the ship's proximity alarm began blaring. Jackson rushed to the control panel and saw 3 Luminari patrol ships approaching. They found me, Zara said, her face pale with terror. They've come to take me back. Jackson's jaw tightened. No one's taking you anywhere against your will. You don't understand, she said, grabbing his arm. They'll kill you for harboring a criminal. Please, just let them take me. Never, Jackson said firmly. He activated the ship's defensive systems and opened a communication channel. This is Captain Jackson Reed of the merchant vessel Starbound. State your business. A cold voice responded. We are here for the criminal Zara. Surrender her immediately or face the consequences. Zara is under my protection, Jackson replied. She's committed no crime that I recognize. Human, you do not understand our ways. The female is our property. She's not property, Jackson snarled. She's a person with rights. Zara watched in amazement. As this wonderful, stubborn man prepared to fight an entire patrol squadron for her freedom. In that moment, she felt something she had never experienced before, unconditional love. I choose you, she whispered, placing her hand over his heart. Whatever happens, I choose you. The Luminari ships powered their weapons, but Jackson was already moving, his ship's engines roaring to life. He wouldn't let them take her. Not now, not ever. The stand chase was intense. Jackson's ship was fast but outnumbered 3-1. He piloted through the asteroid field surrounding Kepler-440b, using his superior knowledge of the terrain to his advantage. The Luminari ships were powerful but less maneuverable. Can we reach the hyperspace point? Zara asked, her hands gripping the console. Not with them on our tail, Jackson replied, banking sharply around a massive asteroid. We need to find another way. One of the Luminari ships fired, the energy beam barely missing them. Jackson's ship shuddered as debris from a shattered asteroid pelted the hull. Jackson, Zara said urgently, there's something else I need to tell you. My people have a weakness: our ship's targeting systems can't lock onto vessels traveling at extremely low frequencies. What kind of frequencies? The kind your ship produces when running on minimal power. If we shut down everything except life support, we'd be sitting ducks, Jackson finished, or invisible, Zara said. Trust me. Without hesitation, Jackson began shutting down systems. The ship went dark except for emergency lighting, and they drifted silently toward a large asteroid with a deep crater. The luminary ships passed overhead, their scanners sweeping, but finding nothing. Zara's knowledge had saved them, but they weren't safe yet. They'll search every asteroid. Zara whispered, "We have maybe an hour before they find us." Jackson was already working on the communications ray. "Then we need help." He sent out a distress signal on an encrypted frequency used by independent traders. Within minutes, he received a response. "This is Captain Torres of the Merchant Fleet Constellation. We're 3 hours out. Can you hold position?" "Negative," Jackson replied. "We need a diversion." What happened next surprised everyone. The message was relayed through the merchant network, and within an hour, 12 ships had converged on the system: independent traders, cargo haulers, and even a few passenger vessels, all coming to help a fellow spacer in need. The Luminari commander found himself facing a small fleet of civilian ships, all demanding to know why they were attacking a merchant vessel in neutral space. "This is an internal matter," the commander insisted. "We are retrieving stolen property." "Stolen property?" Captain Torres laughed. "That's a person you're talking about, not cargo." The standoff continued for hours. The Luminari ships were more advanced, but they were vastly outnumbered. Finally, the commander made a decision that would change everything. "Human," he said, opening a channel to Jackson. "We offer you a choice: return the female, and we will grant you safe passage. Keep her and face the consequences." Jackson looked at Zara, who nodded encouragingly. "I choose to keep her," he said firmly, "but I want to speak with your highest authority." "I am the highest authority here." "Then you have a problem," Jackson replied, "because I'm not giving her up." In the end, it was Zara who found the solution. She opened a channel to all ships and spoke in her native language, then translated for the humans. "I have formally renounced my citizenship and claimed asylum with the human fleet. By our own laws, I am no longer subject to Luminari authority." The commander was furious, but he couldn't argue with their own legal code. The Luminari ships departed, but not before their leader issued a final warning. "This is not over, human. You have made an enemy of the Luminari Empire." "No," Jackson replied. "I've made a friend of Zara. That's worth any risk." New beginning. 6 months later, Jackson's ship had been modified with a second living space and upgraded systems. Zara had proven to be an exceptional engineer, and their partnership had become legendary among the independent traders. But more than that, their love had grown into something beautiful and unbreakable. "The Centauri colony is offering us a permanent berth," Jackson said, reviewing the latest message. "Good pay, steady work, and they're very welcoming to mixed couples." Zara looked up from the star charts she was studying. "Mixed couples, human and non-human partnerships, they're becoming more common in the outer colonies." "And you want to settle down?" she asked, though she already knew the answer from the hope in his voice. "With you, yes, but only if you want to." Zara set aside her work and moved to sit beside him. Over the months, her confidence had grown tremendously. She was no longer the frightened refugee who had collapsed at his door, but a strong woman who had chosen her own path. "I want to tell you something," she said, "about the bond I mentioned." Jackson tensed slightly, remembering her words about the permanent nature of Luminari connections. "It's already happened." She continued softly, "I can feel your emotions, your thoughts sometimes. The bond formed the night you chose to protect me from my people. Are you sure?" he asked. "Because I feel it too. This connection that goes deeper than anything I've ever experienced." "I'm sure," she said, placing her hand over his heart. "The question is, are you afraid?" Jackson covered her hand with his. "Terrified," he admitted, "but also grateful. I never thought I'd find someone who would choose me, all of me. I didn't choose you for what you could give me, Zara said. "I chose you for who you are. Your kindness, your strength, your stubborn insistence on doing what's right even when it's dangerous. And I choose you," Jackson replied, "for your courage, your brilliance, and your determination to be free." They were interrupted by an incoming message. To their surprise, it was from a Luminari ship but not a military vessel. "This is Kira of the Luminari Liberation Front." The message began. "We've heard about your story, and we want you to know that you've inspired others. 17 females have claimed asylum with human colonies in the past month. Change is coming to our world, and it started with your courage." Zara's eyes filled with tears. I never imagined that running away could help others find their freedom. "Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is live your truth," Jackson said. "You've shown other Luminari women that they have choices." Months turned to years, and their love story became legend throughout the galaxy. They settled on Centauri Prime, where they built a life together that was everything they had dreamed of. Zara established a sanctuary for refugees from oppressive worlds, while Jackson continued his work as a trader, now specializing in transporting those seeking freedom. Their bond had indeed become permanent, but it wasn't the prison Zara had once feared. Instead, it was a source of strength that allowed them to face any challenge together. And when visitors asked Zara about that first night, when she had offered herself for food, she would smile and say, "He gave me something far more valuable than sustenance. He gave me the chance to choose my own destiny." Their love had changed not just their lives, but the lives of countless others across the stars. It proved that sometimes the greatest act of rebellion is simply choosing to love freely, without fear or compromise. In the end, Jackson had been right. Everyone deserves compassion, and sometimes compassion can change the galaxy.